Greetings, everybody. Welcome to another Squadcast session. This time I'm on the train, so please let me know if you can hear the train sounds, first of all, and I really hope I'm not bothering my neighbors too badly. But I'm very excited to be here. My name's Ariel. I'm the community manager at Squadcast, and I am joined here today by...
Excuse me? Why is this bags here? It's red bags here. These bags. Okay, so we gotta put up the top.
I'm so sorry, everybody. My train got delayed. I was supposed to be in a stable place at this time, but instead I am commuting. So thank you all for sticking with me. You might hear some fun commuter noises. Okay, so without further ado, my name is Ariel. I'm the community manager at Squadcast, and I am joined today by Rock Felder, who is one of the co-founders of Squadcast, and Diamond Young, who is going to be teaching us today about leveling up your podcast by identifying your audience. We all met at Black Podfest in Atlanta in May, so shout out to Anna and the team at Black Pod Collective for bringing us together. And shout out to Diamond for chatting with us, saying that she's a Squadcaster and telling us what she wants to teach about to the Squadcast community. Very excited to have you here. Rock, do you have any announcements before I hand over the stage to Diamond? Anything new with Squadcast, new with our podcast, anything you want to shout out?
Yeah, so thank you, Ariel. I'm here as backup, everybody. So yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Ariel. And yeah, we just launched a new version of Squadcast, the new studio and backstage. It's a lot of features to help you and your team collaborate, not just in the recording studio, but outside of it, help you keep organized with like different workspaces we call shows, invite different team members, provide them with different levels of access on top of a bunch of other awesome benefits and features. So really would love to hear what you think and check it out. We've been hearing a lot from folks, and yeah, really excited about that. But yeah, that's the focus is all on Diamond today. So really excited to learn about that, because a big ethos here at Squadcast was helping podcasters and creators focus on their audience. So a topic that we're going to cover is something near and dear to our hearts. So thank you, Diamond.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just before we hand the stage over to Diamond, Rock and I we'll minimize ourselves, but we'll still be here throughout the hour. Just a little orientation as to Crowdcast. So we'd love for you to keep the chat going. Let us know where you're from. Let us know where you're at on your podcast journey. If you're a creator, if you hope to be a creator, if you need some help marketing, please feel free to let us know, because there might be somebody else in the chat who can help you. If you have a question, make sure to ask it in the Ask a Question tab, because we will leave some time at the end to answer those questions. There is a poll going on right now. So if you go to the poll section, you can answer a question that Diamond has added for us. And other than that, if you've got any questions, we are available at support@squadcast.fm. I am available at Ariel@squadcast.fm, and we're really excited. So let's give it over to Diamond. What you got for us today, Diamond? Go ahead.
Hey, I guess I can start by sharing my screen. Let me make sure. Oops, hold on 1 second, everybody.
And I'm here if you need me. I'm just going to be a voice now.
Okay, let's see. I want to make sure. Oh, okay. Hold on 1 second. Can everyone see my screen? Am I good to go?
Yes, you look good.
Okay, and let me hide that little message. All right, welcome everyone. Go ahead and grab some water and your tea. I want you all to get comfortable, because we're gonna have a lot of fun this evening. I hope you all enjoy this session, as I'll be presenting leveling up your podcast by identifying your audience. So yeah, I'm just so super excited to be here. Oh, it's cool to see you. Sorry, I have all these screens, so if you see me looking to the side, I'm just looking at the chat and looking at my notes and trying to look at you, but believe me, I'm present, and just super, super excited to be here. All right, let's get this show rolling. So I'll go ahead and introduce myself. I'm Diamond Young. And again, I want to give a warm welcome to everyone that's on this call tonight. Thank you, Squadcast, for having me. Like they said, we met at a festival back in May. And yeah, it's just cool to be here. It's very full circle. When I started my podcast, I started on Squadcast. That's how I record my episodes. because all of my episodes are virtual with guests around the world. So shout out to Squadcast, and I'm just super excited. So if you are here, that means that you have some level of interest in starting or growing your podcast, and I'm super excited to help you along your journey today. Oh, thought I heard something. To share a little more about me, I'm a proud business owner. I work in the tech field, and I'm a podcaster as well, just like you. On a personal note, I'm from North Carolina, but I actually currently live in Houston, Texas now. I've been here for about 2 years. And I think I've seen someone in the chat say something about Oakland. I actually did live in Oakland for a little bit as well. So shout out to Oakland. And yeah, I own and operate an app called Black Directory, which is a platform that helps people find Black-owned businesses nearby. Yeah, a bunch of Squadcast folks in Oakland. But it helps people to find Black-owned businesses in their area. So that's something that I'm just really super proud of. Along the journey of creating the app, I knew that I wanted to have a podcast component to my business. I had no idea what I was doing, so I just kind of started teaching myself along the way. But I knew overall that it would provide a lot of value to my audience. I knew that much, but I had to figure out the rest. I'm sure someone can relate. And now I get to connect with entrepreneurs all over the world. In addition, I get to help aspiring podcasters develop their show. And I'm enjoying the journey. I can truly say that I'm enjoying it all. And I'm happy to be here with you all today. So enough about me. I want to share with you all the agenda. So let's go ahead and keep it moving. So here's what today looks like. We will start with some podcasting stats, why it's important to know who's listening to your show, the role that your audience will play when it comes to your show. So we'll talk about that. Then we will dive into finding your audience. So I'll be sharing how to identify your audience, how there should be a correlation between your niche and your listeners, and how you can leverage data and analytics in this process as well. And lastly, we'll talk about how to stay connected with your audience and the power of fostering a community, which is so important. There are a few things that I want you all to keep in mind during this session tonight. I want to provide as much value to you as I can. I want you to get the most out of this workshop. I want you to feel like you're leaving here with something to help you move forward within your journey. So that's a goal of mine. And I also want you to feel like this is a conversation. I can't see your faces, but I will be looking at the chat. That's how I'm going to feel your energy. And again, I just want you all to have the best experience. So please feel free to drop any questions in the chat, comments, emojis, all that good stuff, because I want to feel like I'm connected to you all. So let's have some fun. And if everyone's all right with that, go ahead and put an emoji in the chat. Let's go ahead and get some energy going. Can I see some emojis? Okay, Pisa. That works. Let's see. Do we have any other emoji? No, not a thumbs down. Right. Oh, yeah, let's keep those emojis coming. Okay, I like that. Okay, yes, nice variety. Awesome. So let's go ahead and get started. So today I will be covering ways to identify your audience, why it's important, and how to nurture your community. And oh yes, all the emojis. Okay. You're in the right place if you want to connect with your audience and expand your reach. You want to identify your audience so that you can secure partnerships and deals. You want to find ways to collect data about your audience so that you can further improve your show. And you want to level it up, right? You want to level up your show and increase your brand awareness overall, which is always a good thing. If the above items apply to you, congratulations, you are in the right place. So let's get going. I'm excited. So as we'll be talking about identifying audiences, I want to spend a little time on some stats, not a lot, but who exactly is listening to podcasts these days, right? I know that's something that I was asking myself when I was getting started, and maybe you have too, but I did some research, right? And I found that 28% of Americans are listening to podcasts weekly. That's 80 million. 28% doesn't sound like a lot, but when you look at those stats, it's just like, okay, people are listening, which is good for us fellow podcasters. And I also found that over 1/3 of Americans are listening regularly, which is a good thing, right? Some people may listen once and just never go back, but we want to keep them listening. And there are currently 120 million podcast listeners in the US, and industry experts they're just predicting it's going to grow, right? It's going to keep growing. I think it's growing at a crazy fast rate, which is good. It's good for us, right? And as you can see from these numbers, podcasts are still becoming popular. They're becoming popular. People are still, you have a lot of people that they're new to it. They haven't really heard a podcast yet. So I think this number will continue to grow at a really, really amazing rate. And people need to hear what you have to say. So that's something that I want us all to remember. But the best part is this means that your audience is out there. If you look at these numbers, it means that someone out there should listen to my show, or they're going to feel like it resonates with them and that they connect to it. So that's kind of the thing that's been keeping me going, right? Is knowing, okay, it's going to keep growing as far as just people listening to podcasts in general, but I want them to listen to my show, right? So you just have to connect with them. Let me know in the chat if any of these stats if it surprises you, or is anyone surprised? Oh. Right, right. So I was surprised. I didn't know really what to expect with those numbers, but it's good, a good surprise, I would say. So now let's think about how and where your audience shows up, right? Some things to note is that knowing your audience will impact different parts of your podcast. By knowing your audience, you'll be able to tailor your emails, for instance, right? You can tailor your email strategy and your communication strategy so that you're talking to the right people. That alone is really important. And you'll also be able to fine tune your marketing strategy. Ads, for example. I don't know how many people use ads, or maybe you're thinking about using ads in the future when you're just promoting your show. But what's the point if you don't really know who to target? Because when you do Instagram ads, for an example, it's going to ask you, okay, what's the age? What's their interest? Are you targeting a specific location? And the more you know about your audience, the more that I don't want to say waste money, because there is some trial and error when it comes to doing ads, but it just helps you really narrow and make sure that your ads, for an example, your marketing is seen in front of the right people. So definitely wanted to use that as an example. And you can better your chances of landing sponsorship opportunities or partnerships in general, right? They want to know if your audience is aligned. I think a lot of times we kind of don't know what's behind that curtain when it comes to, okay, I want to get funding, or I want to get sponsors for my show, or I want to have an event. And they're going to ask, like, who's your audience? And they want to know that you know it like the back of your hand, like, yes, this is my audience, is this demographic, is this group right here. And that's how they're going to pretty much decide if they want to work with you or not, based on, oh, wow, we have the same audience. We have the same message. We share those things. That's going to help people decide if they want to give you funding or not, or just some kind of partnership opportunity. So that's super important. And by knowing your audience, you can also make changes to your show. I think in the beginning, sometimes you just launch a show, you're not quite sure who's going to be listening to it. But as you kind of start to realize who your audience is, because sometimes it's not who you think it will be, you can start tailoring your show to just really create the best experience for your audience overall. Oh, we got some at the end of the session. Okay. So let's dive into finding your audience. So I wanted to start with a few stats, a few things that I want us to kind of start thinking about as we go through the presentation, but let's dive in a little bit more. I'm not sure if everyone has seen the poll. I put up a poll earlier just asking, have you identified your target audience for your podcast show? I just want to get a sense of who here believes that they know who their audience is. So let me check out this poll. Okay, we have a few votes. Let's see. So some people said yes, 27% said yes. equally the amount of people said no. And then it's also a big portion of people that say, hey, I can't wait to learn about this. I don't know what's going on, but hopefully I could figure more out by the end of this session. So cool. Yeah, keep voting. But thanks everyone for just casting those votes. I definitely wanted to get a sense of just where everyone is within this process. So thank you for that. All right. Yeah, keep voting, guys. All right, so now let's talk about identifying your audience. So knowing who your audience will be ultimately shapes the way you develop your show, the way you create it, and how you will market your show, right? Yes, TV and movies. There are some things you want to think about, though, when identifying your audience, like, is your podcast going to entertain, right? Is it going to provide information, or is it going to educate someone? It's so many different angles of what your show represents and how it connects with people. So you definitely want to start thinking about that, and we'll, keep talking about that more today. And in addition, there are some things you should be asking yourself to help you along this audience discovery phase is what I'll call it. And those things are, who would your ideal listener be? And as I'm talking, hopefully you're thinking and taking notes and really just we're going to work through this together. But who will your ideal audience? Who is your ideal listener, right? Is your podcast going to be appealing to all genders? All right. And I say that because some people may have an audience that's so specific, or you may not, and it may be open to everyone, or you may have something that's for new moms, for instance. Are they located in a particular location, your listeners? There may be a show that's all about New York history, that's just a random example, but and it's, of course anyone can listen, but that may be your core group, right? So are they located in a particular location or country? Is your show location dependent? So that's something to think about. Are they in a certain, New York history for anyone interested. Are they in a certain career field? Are they experiencing a specific life experience right now, right? Like, again, the new mom thing, like, are they in a certain chapter in their life? And you may have thoughts on this based on what your show is about. Everyone's show is about something different. Another thing, is there a specific age range that you feel will appreciate your content more than others? And I think that can be tricky sometimes, because we may have something where it's like, oh, well, anyone can relate, but what's the sweet spot? Who's your ideal audience? Who's your ideal listener where it's like, okay, they would love your show? Overall, who do you think will enjoy your content the most is kind of what that's getting to. Next, what do they care about? What does the ideal listener care about? Do they have any special interests, hobbies, passions? What gets them going? That's something important to think about as well. What keeps them up at night? And that could be a good thing or a bad thing, right? What are they ultimately excited about or worried about? And where does your show fit in that picture? If it's something that they're excited about, are you feeding that excitement, right? Where it's like, oh, I know I could go to this podcast because it's going to keep me just feeling good and learning more about this topic. Or are they worried about something and your show solves it, kind of offers a solution, I would say. So that's something to think about, right? What keeps them up at night. True crime readers out there. Yeah, right. So that's something to think about as well. And lastly, how do they consume content and information? So say you have someone in your mind and you're like, okay, I think this is like the ideal listener. How do they consume content? Do you think they would consume a podcast that's like shorter in length or maybe something longer? Do you think they would want to consume multiple episodes a week? What can you find out about that audience or that ideal listener rather? And again, these are just things to think about. I don't know if you'll necessarily have the answer right away, but this is the work that I did to kind of really hone in on, okay, who's my listener? Who do I think will gravitate towards my show, right? So these are just some things to keep in mind. So I want to switch gears for a moment and talk about how your niche can tie into your audience. So some of you may have an idea of what your show is about, while some of you may know exactly what your show is about. So here we have a list of some examples of podcast category and niches. To the left is the high level categories, I would say, and to the right are example niches. So we have romance and dating, personal finance, health and wellness. We have a list of that. And then to the right, we have, okay, romance and dating may be paired with dating after divorce. That'll be a very specific, like, okay, this is my niche. This is what my show is about, and kind of like who is for, in a sense, right? So think of a podcast niche as a subcategory. So again, for example, health is a category, but a podcast niche would be healthy lifestyle for new moms, right? So the target audience may be new moms, soon to be moms, and maybe newlyweds. Music is a category, but a niche might be 90s R&B and hip hop, right? So the audience would be people that love music. You know, those people that they're always listening to the latest song, or not the latest song, maybe they're going back to the 90s and listening to some throwbacks. And maybe they like to go to concerts. Maybe that's their interest, is they love going to concerts and artist meet and greets and things like that. And maybe they have an interest in music history. Maybe your show is all about the did you know, right? All those cool things where we didn't know about the behind the scenes of the music video, or something that the artist went through. And you have to find an audience that they love that. Like, they're your people and you're their people and everyone's connected. So I just wanted to show you this so you have something to think about. So again, from here, start to think about how your niche may correlate to your audience. And if it doesn't, again, this is all things to kind of get your mind rolling, so you can think about, like, okay, wait a minute. My niche is this, but I feel like my audience is something different. And that could be the case as well. But before I move on, how's everyone doing? Let me check the chat. Is everyone still with me? Good. How's everyone doing? Everyone give me a thumbs up if everyone's doing all right. Thank you. All right. Okay. Okay, they're rolling in. Like this niche thought. Yeah. Just want to include it just to give you a little bit more to think about. Thank you. Okay, thanks. That helps me seeing your engagement and how everyone's feeling. I know this could be a lot of information. Oh, okay. So yeah, I can't wait to hear more about your stuff, which we're about to do in a quick second. So wanted to give some sample profiles for a bit. So let's take a look at sample audiences profiles A and B. They both have different audiences and different niches, as you can see from the details. But sample audience A, again, these are just random samples, but say the audience is African Americans, right? And say it's men and women. It's not really specific towards, you know, either no gender is open, right? It's not really like one of those shows. It's just open. Ages 25 to 34, so kind of that millennial group. And let's say the audience is newly married or engaged couples. This would be a sample profile where, and it could be more or less things, but I just want to have 4 lines for you of like, oh, okay, that's an example of an audience. And sample audience B is no specific ethnicity or race, is geared towards new moms, is ages 35 and up, and is really just targeting people that have a healthy lifestyle interest. They want to know how they can take care of their bodies, what they can be doing to make sure that they're just healthy, right? Like based on what they eat, maybe it's dieting tips, who knows? But this is another example of just another audience profile. So now let's do a quick activity. Let's do a quick individual activity. Again, it's all in the chat. And this will help you to kind of get your brain going and identifying your target audience. I want you all to write out your ideal audience in the chat. So this may include demographics, audience, age, gender, interest, or location, if applicable. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I just want to see some stuff in the chat. And don't worry if you don't have 2, 3, 4 things. It may be one part that you're like, okay, I don't know about the rest, but I know this is the age range that I'm targeting. Or, oh, okay, what is this ideal audience? People who are interested in remote content production based anywhere, any level, 18 and up. I love that. I like that. My podcasts are for the gays. Okay. I love it. I love it. I want to hear some more audiences. And let me know if anyone's kind of trying to figure it out. But, and again, this could be for sure, like you know this is your audience, or this could be who you want to be your audience, like who you think, like when you created your show, you're like, okay, this is who I created it for. So I want to know some more in the chat. Ariel podcast is for people who love to listen to podcasts. I love that. I love that. In my show, I don't think I talked about I think I talked about my show, but because I have the app that's geared towards showcasing Black-owned businesses, I thought it made sense to create a podcast that highlighted the Black-owned businesses. So the entrepreneurs come on the show and they get to share with everyone how they got started, their wins, their challenges, and things like that. So my audience is weird because anyone could listen and find value in it, but my audience is, for the most part, is African Americans, potential business owners, like people that want to be an entrepreneur and they're trying to figure it out, and people that are already entrepreneurs and they just want to kind of have that motivation to keep going. So just wanted to throw that out there. And I noticed that for me, it's kind of that 25 to 34 age that seems to be my audience. Okay. So let's see, screens in focus. So no specific ethnicity, women and men, ages 30 and up, TV/movie fans. Oh, okay, I need to listen. I love TV shows. And yeah, I don't know if anyone watches Love Island, but I listen to a whole podcast that goes over like Love Island UK in particular, but all the episodes, and it gives me so much life. Let's see. Go flows for anyone who is starting on their meditation journey. Ooh, I like that. I like that a lot, especially when you said starting, because I think a lot of times, you do have some newbies where we're just beginning and we want something to listen to really kind of guide us on that journey. Okay, Maru, ideal audience, women who are interested in psychology, ages 25 to 40, in a romantic relationship, no specific ethnicity. I like that. Ideal audience, people looking for resources and inspiration if they struggle with dyslexia, and listen to success stories of dyslexic professionals all across the industry. Wow, that's powerful. That is really amazing. Kudos to you. I definitely want to go back and listen to everyone's shows. So hopefully I can get some links to all your shows. But this is important, right? Like I'm just looking through everyone's posts. Oh, someone else watches Love Island. Okay, anyways, back to the presentation, but got so excited. But yes, this is just so important to be able to identify who you're targeting or who your audience is. And we'll go through why and how that shows up once you know who it is. But it's just, yeah, share your links, please. But it's so important because when you don't know, you'll find yourself just making episodes, but it's like you don't know who you're talking to. You're just kind of talking and you're going through the motion. And you want to make sure that every episode is intentional, is impactful in whatever way that means to you. And you feel like, I know I'm giving my audience what they need, if that makes sense. So someone said I need to go watch Love Island. Oh yeah. But thanks everyone. Thanks for, yes, please. Everyone share your links in the chat. But yes, thanks for doing that. I just wanted to take a moment and just let everyone just put it out there. And I think sometimes we may think we know, but it's something about putting it in the chat, sharing it of like, no, this is my audience. This is who I make my podcast for. So yes, thank you everyone for that. All right. So another important thing to consider is leveraging what you already know about your audience. Think about the data that you already have, because I think it's easy to feel like, well, I don't know anything about them, which I've been there where I'm like, okay, am I starting from scratch? But by capturing these key details about your listeners, you will be able to market your show accurately you'll be able to make the proper changes to the show and connect with potential sponsors for future funding opportunities. I know I kind of mentioned that earlier, but when it comes to sponsors, they're going to want to know if your audience is aligned. They're interested in knowing about your listeners' age, if they have spending power, do they have a certain ethnicity or race, depending on, again, the sponsor. Are your listeners parents? Are they college students? They want to know, and you should want to know, right? Like who's listening to my show, but they're going to ask the same thing. So I'm looking at this like, okay, how can I get ahead of this, right? How can I get ahead of this to where I can feel confident when someone asks me about my audience, and I know, like, you may not know everything, but you know more about your audience. Oh, I'm still identifying an audience, the audience age. Okay, yes. Some things take a little bit more time because some things will give you the data and some things won't, which we'll get into as well. But in order to know that, you have to really get to know your listeners, really figure out who they are. So data is going to tell you the facts about your audience, like where are they located, city and country, for instance, their age and gender, depending on where the data is coming from. And one place that you could start with is your analytics from your podcast hosts or directory platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And up here, this image is a screenshot from Buzzsprout. But just want to pause here for a second. I'm going to say, like, I haven't tried all the different podcast hosts. I use Buzzsprout, so I'm more familiar with the analytics, but I would highly suggest that everyone check that out with whoever their hosting provider is and really see, like, hey, where's the analytics? And if they don't have them, you may want to consider, like, okay, where can I get more insight into who's listening to my show, right? So that's just something that I want to call out. And how can I learn who is listening to my show? I know some things like location and age by group. Okay, yeah, so we're about to get into that right now. And then again, so outside of Buzzsprout, right, or your hosting providers analytics, because it is limited. I'm going to tell you right now, some of you may be like, it's pretty limited. It's going to tell you location and what type of devices they're using and where they're located. And it's kind of limited, I'm not going to lie. But another place to find more data would be your social media analytics. If you have a social media page for your show, or you promote your show on your profile, right? Some people don't have a separate profile, but they have their own, and then they promote their show. That will give you some kind of indicator on who's listening, because most likely some of your followers are actually some of your listeners. There's going to be some overlap typically. So that's kind of how I started. I went to Buzzsprout. I was able to capture as much as I could. And then I went to Instagram, for instance. I went to my insights and my analytics, and I would highly suggest that everyone maybe switch over to the creator/business account on Instagram, because you can't see analytics without it. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's probably why you have to switch it over in your settings, which I would suggest, because again, we can't get but so much information from the podcast directory sites and host sites. So I would definitely pair it with the social media analytics to try to paint a picture of, like, okay, social media may be able to fill in the age part. Like, oh, okay, I noticed that people that really interact with my content are this age range. That's probably my listeners as well on the podcast side. So wanted to share that way you know that there are some options as far as where you want to look for your audience. And then, so you may be thinking, okay, I need more data than that, right? So the best way to get more information about your audience is directly from your audience. So there are two ways that you can go about doing this, which is surveys, right? Surveys and a live format. A live format would be like a meet and greet or a focus group. So with surveys, of course, we've all taken a survey at some point. And we know that we can really craft the questions that can give you the information that you need and that you're looking for. And you could share the survey through your email list. I don't know how many people have an email list. Maybe we could put that in the chat. How many of you all have an email list? And if you don't, it's okay. But I just wanted to kind of gauge how many people have started kind of collecting some emails and have an email list. So I'm going to keep going, but go ahead and start putting that in the chat. That's about rocks we do. Yes. Okay. So yeah, you can share the survey with your email list. If you don't have an email list just yet, then consider running a poll on something like Instagram stories. I want everyone to get creative. I think when we think of surveys, we just think of, oh, I did not just for the podcast. I don't think I do how to get an email list. Okay. And then with the email list, I guess it depends, right? I want to spend a little time on how to actually get an email list. So it's two parts. So some people may have a website, some people may not. So with the website, depending on how, where it's hosted, you can add in a section for like, hey, do you want to subscribe to my newsletter? And people can just, automatically just submit their emails, and then you have an email list. But if you don't have a website or a place to really capture that, something that I've done, I'm actually one of those people where I like to go on Facebook groups because I think a lot of leads are in Facebook groups. But sometimes I'll just ask people like, hey, does anyone want to be on my list? And that could be on Instagram story. That can be wherever you want to post it. And you would be surprised if you tell them what it's for and what it's about. You would be very surprised. The people that's like, hey, at me. Yeah, I want to know what you have going on, in the future. So don't be afraid to build your email list. And then, of course, on your show, you actually could shout it out on your show as well and just say like, hey, I'm building my email list because I want to be able to share updates and good news with you all and, whatever. And be sure to DM us your email so that we can add you to our list. Like, I think it's multiple ways to start building that list if you're starting from scratch. So just wanted to right, email marketing for podcasters, right? That's a totally different ball game. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that you all just get creative though. I think that's what I was going to say. Just using Instagram, Facebook, Twitter to make polls. I think a lot of social media platforms have a poll feature. And the thing I like about polls is you actually don't have to, it depends on your approach. You can ask all the questions at once. I wouldn't make them too long or I would spread them out. But it's just a way to gauge and see like who's listening to your show, and you can maybe get some feedback and things like that. So don't sleep on polls. If you want to turn it up a notch, then you can organize, and I'm just using Zoom for an example, but you can organize a video call. It could be a Zoom call with your listeners. And I haven't done this yet, but I'm excited because I really want to do it. But you can organize a call with your listeners where they can have a chance to meet you. So you can call it a meet the host event. I just made that up, but you can organize an event where they get to meet you. Say if this is twice a year, say if this is once a quarter. I think it's no rules to this. I think it's just about what makes sense for you and your audience. But imagine if your listeners could be with you virtually, right, in a room, to where you get a chance to meet them. And with this method, I don't look at it as something where it's so formal, which we'll get into focus groups, not where it's so formal, but more so an opportunity for you to get to know them. And as you're getting to know them, you're actually taking mental notes of like, oh, wow, I noticed all women showed up and no men. Where are the men? Like, say if your podcast is like open, that's a mental note of like, oh, wow, I think that my audience may be women or something different than what I thought. And throughout natural conversation, you can collect actually a lot of more information. And then again, you could host a focus group and you could offer an Amazon gift card as an incentive if you want to, because I think that's what's the word? That's like the vibe of like, oh, are people really going to want to get on a call with me? Are they going to want to do this focus group? But make it fun. Think about what would make you get on a focus group call, right? Some of us may, if it's our favorite podcaster anyways, but the incentives is just another way to make sure they show up, right? And be there and be present. But there's definitely an opportunity for you to get to know them better. You can ask questions. And really with the focus group, you can actually ask the serious questions. That's why I made it separate, because it's more formal, it's more serious, but you leave with the data that you've been looking for. So there's no right or wrong way, but I just wanted to give you all a few suggestions as far as how do you actually get more data. Is everyone doing okay? I feel like I'm like rolling. How's everyone doing? Let me check the chat because we're about to go into our last part here. Okay. Oh, Frank Lloyd. Yes, I have an email list. Yes. Shout out to the email list. And again, if you don't, this may be right on time for you just to start thinking about, oh, good info. Thanks. I'm loving this. Cool. I'm glad you all are finding this helpful. That's my goal. Just giving you things to think about, right? But if you are on the side where you're like, oh my gosh, I've been there where you're overwhelmed. Like I feel overwhelmed. I don't have a website. I don't have a list. I don't know what's going on. It's okay. Because when I started learning this information, I was overwhelmed a little bit. Thanks everyone. I was overwhelmed, but it's one step at a time, to be totally like, that's my words of advice, is don't get overwhelmed, but make it more of a mission of, you know what, over this next quarter, this next 90 days, I want to know more about my listeners. I want to know what they like or don't like about the show. I want to know who they are. Are they who I think they are, right? Like we may think we know who's listening, but we really don't. So that's really my goal here today. It's just to help you think about some things so you can make a plan for yourself, or how do you want to go about getting more information. So let's get into this last section for today. It's important to nurture your audience after you've identified and made a connection with them, because again, say in the ideal world, you did all these things that we talked about, you've identified like, oh, I know my niche, my audience is over here, I'm figuring out how to find them, I found them, I have this email list. Let's talk about what's next. Like, what do you do from that point? So again, you may be wondering, where do I even start once I've identified my audience? How do I build a community? So let's go through this together. Awesome. One way to stay connected with your audience is to build or utilize a newsletter. So I know we kind of just talked about that a little bit, but this could be a good way to share cool updates, including announcements. We've probably all been a part of someone's newsletter before. You may be a fan of this, you may not, but I don't know. I like to think about, I think it's really good to have an email list, going back to that email thing. And someone always says that you can really see who your community is based on, if social media went away today, would I be able to get in contact with the people, right? A lot of us have followers, but we really don't have their contact. We don't have their email, we don't have their name, we don't know anything about them. If Instagram or something disappeared today, we will be out of luck. And of course you have your podcast listeners, but a lot of us, we don't have their emails. Like we really don't have a way to reach them. And I just want to share that, because when someone said that to me, I was like, I just didn't think of it in that way. But now I'm really trying to be intentional about, okay, how can I make sure I have a lifeline to them? I have a really strong connection to them. So think about newsletters in that way. Even if it's once a month, it doesn't have to be, too much. It can be what you want it to be. I would start slow. Because just like anything, it's a commitment of like, okay, how much can I commit my time to making this newsletter? And you can make a template. It doesn't have to be something where it's draining and you're like, I hate doing this newsletter, but think about it from that perspective of, okay, this is another way to touch base with my audience, to share with them new episodes, share with them what's coming, maybe send out that survey that we were talking about through the newsletter. So just want to leave that with you all. And another way to foster the relationship with your audience is to create an online community. So you can do this through platforms like Patreon, Discord, or by creating a Facebook group. Some people may have some Facebook groups. These private community spaces will allow you to have access to them, to your audience. You can go live, you can release exclusive content on some of these platforms, and it just gives them an outlet to show you love. If you think about it like that, they have a way to reach you, to show love in some form, or they could share topics, right? Some people their show may kind of involve that kind of thing where people can have a voice and submit questions or topics. They may want to give you suggestions or feedback. So definitely don't sleep on those kind of platforms. And let me just pause for a second. Is anyone currently using an online community platform? to connect with their audience? Slack. Oh yeah, I love Slack. I love Slack. Slack is pretty cool as well. Yeah, I want to. Oh, okay. Discord. I haven't used it, but I always hear about it like all the time now. So, oh yeah, I need to actually join that the Slack channel. Okay, I have Facebook groups. Okay, what else is everyone using? And feel free to say nothing yet, right? Like, hey, not yet, but plan on it. But just was curious to see if anyone's been using anything. Okay, Discord. I need to really check that out and see. But it's important. It's important. I hope you all are seeing, just true connection from that. Just Instagram for now. This will be changing. Facebook and Slack. Okay. So that's good to see. That's good to see. All right. So next you can connect with your audience on social media platforms like Instagram, TikTok, Clubhouse, right? Some people still use Clubhouse, or even Twitter Spaces, which is another version of Clubhouse, like the audio, rooms and stuff like that. And again, like we definitely don't want to sleep on don't want to sleep on the social media platforms, because I know it just feels like, okay, social media, what's so special? But Instagram in particular, they're rolling out, I think they kind of started rolling it out, but I don't know if everyone has it. And again, I think you have to have the creator account, but they're rolling out their subscription features, right, for creators. So it just gives creators more of an option to create content that only their subscribers can see. Reels, which I don't think that was a part of the equation before, but you can make reels that only your subscribers can see. And of course, when you go live, like I just thought that was the coolest thing, because that's a big move, but it's good for creators. So you can really create some subscription models and get people to really, they're on Instagram anyways, if you think about it, most likely. So again, just wanted to throw that out there, just planting some seeds. And lastly, don't forget about in-person events, or it could be virtual events too, but in-person events, there's always an option for virtual, but you can make it even more of a connection by meeting your listeners in person. So this could be in the form of happy hours. Now I think we see a lot of people going on podcast tours once they get like a bigger audience, or you could host a local meetup. So again, just start thinking about ways to stay connected to your audience, but know that you can do all these things. You don't have to choose one or the other, or you may just want to have one and start with the one and not get overwhelmed, which I'm all for that as well. But it just shows you we have so many options, but it's up to us to really figure out what that looks like and how to take advantage of that. And that's what a strategy is for. I think that's something that I definitely want to leave with you all. Like, we don't have to execute everything at one time, but you can make a strategy for the year. What's my podcast goals? And a section of it can be all about the community and the audience. How do I want to either identify my audience? How do I want to collect data this year for my audience? And then from there, you can plan the in-person event, right? Say if that's something that you want to do, because you're going to know who it's for. So everything is connected. As you can see, or maybe feeling, this is all a process, but you got this. And that's something that I really want to stress. So identifying your audience is necessary. It's so necessary when it comes to leveling up your show. The more connected you are to your audience, the more you'll be able to create the ultimate experience for them, which is, the point and a good thing. You want your listeners to come back and to feel like they're heard and seen. And there will be a learning curve. So I want everyone to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's something that I kind of stick by. But I just want to stress to just fall in love with the process. And I've been talking a lot. But wow, I feel like time just went by so fast, but I definitely wanted to leave time for some questions and just really get a sense of how everyone's feeling. I know I kind of went really fast, and the audience thing can be a lot, but it's really important, and it only helps to make your show better. But yeah, let me go over to the chat, and I just want to see. if anyone has any questions. So let me scroll down. Just Instagram for now. Oh, I hear a voice. Is that
Can you hear me?
Ariel? Yes. I can hear you.
So we do have some questions in the Ask a Question tab, and then there's a few about Instagram and how to get people to join these groups.
Okay, so let me see. Can it help to identify who isn't in your audience? Yeah, I would think so. I think just as it's important to know who your audience is, I think it's important to know who it isn't. And I think that's going to help when it comes to, oh, thanks everyone. I know some people have to run, but I know that's going to help when it comes to the marketing part, right? Like the marketing aspect. So I think it is good to know who it isn't, but I would say, especially if your show is new, like say it's your first year or first 6 months, I would just be open, because I think you would be surprised. Sometimes you can write people off, right? Like, oh, I know it's not this age group. And then again, through the data, you're like, oh, wait, it is. Like, I did not know that. So I say be open and let the data kind of confirm who it is or who it isn't. But I say be open. And then, of course, once you know who it is, I would just really cater towards that audience. So hopefully that was helpful. Let me go to another one. Oh, I think someone wants to know if they get a copy of the deck after the presentation today. Yeah, I can definitely share it. I don't know if I would send it to you, Ariel, but I'm cool with that.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. And then, someone said, how about YouTube? I guess I need probably more context. Are you talking about creating a community on YouTube? I probably need more context, but I think in general, YouTube Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the question was, how do you identify your audience on YouTube? And to that, I would say you're actually in an easier spot there, because there's a bunch of programs that can help you do that, like TubeBuddy. But I'd love to hear if you have any thoughts on that too as well, Diamond.
And are you talking about the analytics side of YouTube area, or?
I think just because we don't have much context on this, feel free to answer however you feel.
Yeah, no worries. Yes, I think YouTube is a great place. Honestly, it seems like they have a ton of analytics from what I can remember, but I think YouTube is a great place to foster a community or to find your community. YouTube is a place where people will definitely let you know if they love your content or don't like your content or what the case is. And I think in general, yeah, most podcasts probably should go on YouTube, just because everyone consumes content in both formats now, audio and video. But I think YouTube is a great place to build a community. But I would still, again, I hope I'm answering your question, but I would still make sure that I would push certain things to my YouTube audience, like, hey, if you really like my channel, click on this link to sign up for my email list. Like, I would really still try to create, I guess, a relationship with them that's outside of YouTube as well, at least that email list. But YouTube is cool because you can go live and, again, interact. So I think it's a great platform. Okay, and then, oh, I'm very interested. Okay, what is the first step to reach listeners? Again, I guess that depends on in what way you mean reaching listeners. But I would start with, okay, if you have a show, someone's, hopefully someone's listening, I would start just calling it out. Like, some people may add in like an ad space for their episode. I make up my own ad sometimes, and it's like, hey, we want to hear from you. I really want to get connected with my listeners, and I would love for you all to fill out, say, this survey, or we want to learn more about you, something to point them to a link of some sort. Or some place where they can submit, again, their name, their email. I would just start slow. To just really reaching listeners to know who they are. And again, if you're already connecting with some of them on social media, or you think they may follow your page on social media, I would definitely take advantage of stories and polls and just start kind of building up that touch point. I would start building up that touch point for sure. And again, going live on these platforms as well is helpful. So hopefully I answered your question. And someone said on YouTube, can we do both audio and video? Is this recommended? If it's what I think you're asking, I think you can do both. I don't know if you're asking like in the sense of, some people, their shows aren't a video podcast, it's audio, but you know, you may still want to put it on YouTube. And I've seen that, I've done that, right? Like, I think it's just good because someone may just, I think we've all seen those motivational videos on YouTube where it's just like a picture, but you're listening and you may be getting ready in the morning and like it works. So I think that you can do both. I wouldn't let it stop you from putting it on. Your thoughts if we're okay to do audio? Yeah, like I don't think it should stop you from putting it on YouTube because it takes a lot of work, to be honest, to make a video podcast, like, you know, recording audio and video. I think it takes some time, but I think YouTube, it's like you just don't want to miss out on that market as well. And what I've learned is sometimes when you're promoting your show, say on social media, for instance, people are more likely to click on a YouTube link sometimes, no matter what it is, whether it's audio or video, but a YouTube link versus going off to podcasts, because in their mind, it's like, oh, I don't listen to podcasts. And I'm talking about those people that aren't like avid podcast listeners yet. So I think YouTube is always a great place to make sure that you're covered. So hopefully that helps. Oh, okay. Someone asked, where can you find me online? So you can find me under, oh, thank you. You can find me under Diamond Unlimited on Instagram and on TikTok. I'm trying to make some like podcast content and tips and stuff like that. I love TikTok. And you can also follow me on Black Directory, which is BLK Directory. So that's the app that I was telling you about. We have our page, and of course that shows my podcast content as well. So that's on all platforms. Oh yeah, thank you. Thank you. This has been so much fun. Good part when I listed YouTube links, got more listeners. Yeah, that's the moral of the story. Awesome. I really hope you all enjoyed.
I just feel like this whole drama is a point because let's say.
Can you hear me, Diamond?
Like,
yes. I can. Oh, no.
And you can hear the person behind me too.
Yeah.
Roxy's here to close us out.
Awesome.
Hello, Diamond. Thank you so much.
Of course. Of course.
I loved it. I don't know if you saw the chat, but it was completely lit up with people just loving the info that you gave. So really excited to hear what folks are able to do with it. But thank you so much for your time. I know you were sharing with people where's the best place to find you. Can you just remind them again, just for anybody that might have missed?
Yeah, for my page, you can find me under Diamond Unlimited, and that's on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. And you can also find the Black Directory page if you want to learn more about that or see some of the clips from the podcast. And that's BLK Directory, and that's on all platforms.
All right. Well, we'll be sure to share more about that. Thank you again so much for your time and wonderful presentation. Sounds like we're going to need to get that deck from you because folks are asking for that as well. So we'll follow up with you there. And thank you everyone for joining us today. We really hope you enjoyed. We will have a live recording available right after this. So you can always check out Diamond and all her awesomeness after if you missed anything or came late. And please, the next community event that we have is office hours. So if you're a Squadcaster and want to learn the ins and outs and benefits of features of the latest and greatest, the new studio and backstage with Squadcast, please check it out. We're going to have a 30-minute session and really just help set you all up for success the next time you're recording on Squadcast. We'll have more to share very soon. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.